Welcome back. In the last video, we made a model of our shape. In this video, we are going to set this shape up to cut on the CNC router. So we're going to tell the router where the origin is. We're also going to tell it where we want it to cut into these. We're going to call them pockets, sunken in areas, and where we want it to cut all the way through. Okay, so up to this point, we've been doing design work and we've been in the design workspace. So I'm going to come up to the top corner where it says design, and I'm going to switch this to manufacture. Right, if this is your first time in manufacture, your screen might look like this. You can click this arrow to expand some options, and I want you to check that your unit here is set to inches. I believe it's going to default to millimeters the first time you're in. So if it says millimeters, hit this sheet of paper. A menu is going to open up over here on the right side of your screen, and you want to do that drop down, change it to inch, and then set that as your default. All right. Mine's already in inches, so I can't set it to default, but you should do that and then click on OK. All right. Once that's done, we're going to come to this setup icon, the folder with a little cube on it, and we're going to click on this. All right. This is where we tell the computer where the origin is. Where do we want to have the home space set when we bring this out to our router? And we want to set the origin not in the middle of the project here where it's suggesting, but we want it to be the origin that we used when we modeled it. So I want my origin down here on the lower left-hand corner. So I'm going to come on this menu where it says origin. I'll click the drop down and I'm going to go to model origin at the top option, and it should snap my origin down here. Right now I can see my X is left to right, my Y is going to be up and down, and my Z, well, actually, I guess my Z would be up and down. My Y would be kind of back and forth. All right. Final thing I want to check here before I click OK is I'm going to hit the front button to change this to a side view. I want to make sure my origin is set on the top edge of my object, and I can see that it is here. All right, so I like what I've got. I'm going to click OK. All right, if you don't have your origin in the right spot, what I would suggest you do is you're going to come to origin and change it from model origin to selected point. This will let you pick any point on your project and you can move the origin there. So you should be able to just select this corner and move your origin there. Right. If you try these two things and it's not working, don't sit there and struggle. Come find your instructor, see if I can give you some help. Right. I like what I got, so I'm going to click OK. Now I can start programming my tool path. This is the cutting path that we want our tools to follow when it makes our project on the CNC router. So I'm going to come over here where it says 2D, and I'm going to go to 2D pocket. Right? That's going to open up a menu on this side that I'm just going to kind of work my way through, starting on the first of these 6 tabs that says tools. Right? First thing I need to do is tell it what tool I want it to work with. You know, I've been in here and done some work, so my screen again is going to look a little different than yours. What you want to do is expand this Fusion library option. All right, I'm going to come into Cutting Tools Metric. I want you to go down to Milling Tools Inch. I'm going into this Cutting Tools Metric because I haven't been in here before and it says library turned off. This is what your library will look like when you first click on Milling Tools Inch. And then you're going to say turn library on and some tools should show up. All right? So your screen should look like mine now if you're in Milling Tools Inch and you have your library turned on. There are lots of milling tool options. We're going to sort it down by coming over here and clicking on flat end mill. Right now, in our shop, we have 1/8 router bits with a flat end, 1/4 flat inch round, flat inch, oh my goodness, 1/4 flat router bits, flat end mill router bits. I'm not going to try saying that again. 3/8 router bits and 1/2 inch router bits that we can use. Okay. If you're following along with me making this Packer sign, I recommend you start off with the 1/4 flat end mill by clicking it. We're going to ignore these options down here. If you were in a metals class, you might pay closer attention. For a wood router, we just need to pick the right diameter and then say select. All right, so now I've got a tool selected. I'm going to come in and change a few things about how fast this tool spins and how fast it's moving left to right. Okay, our router always spins at 21,000 RPM, so 2100 RPM. Right, as I update that, it's going to change a few other things here. I want to come down to cutting feed rate next, and I'm going to delete this random number, and I'm going to set it at 50 inches per minute. Right? We found that's a pretty good speed for cutting into that hard, dense Epicurean material. And if you're doing maybe a pine sign, you could go faster, but that's a good starting off speed. Right? And then finally, I'm going to come down to the bottom and turn my flood off. I'm going to disable it. Okay. We're skipping the second tab. We don't need to worry about multi-axes. We're going to go to the third one. This is where we're going to pick our geometry. Okay, so I'm going to go to the pocket option. I'll drag this menu out here so you can see it. And what I want to do is pick the bottom of my G, and then I'm going to say select same plane, and it'll pick anything else that's cut to that same depth. All right, so now I've picked the area I want to cut. I'm going to say OK. All right, I'm going to skip over the heights tab. I'm going to go to passes now, and I'm going to turn stock to leave off. I'm going to turn multiple depths on, and I want to change my maximum roughing depth to half the diameter of my bit, or the radius of my bit. So I'm using a 1/4 inch bit. I want to cut in 1/8 of an inch deep. All right. So my maximum roughing step down is going to be 1/8 of an inch. Did I put a period there? Yep, I did have a period there. All right. And I think if I click to another box, it understands what that is. It's not giving me an error message. You could also type the decimal equivalent in there. Okay, finally, we're going to go to this linking tab. This is where we can set up how the router is going to enter our material. I'm actually going to turn off the lead in and lead out. All right, I want the router to just drop right in. I don't want it coming from the side and cutting into this pocket. I want it to drop right in. And when it drops in, I don't want it to do a helix and spin. I want it to just plunge right straight down. All right, so I've made those changes. Now I'm going to click on OK down here. The blue wheel is going to spin. All right, over here, I got a green wheel that's spinning. We're going to hope this clears up in a second. All right, it's still spinning. All right, your computer, probably has a little less computing power than mine. It might spin even longer. All right, this should outline the inside of the G and down here eventually. There we go. So now on my screen, I have got some blue lines. That's where my router is going to cut. I got some yellow lines. That's where it's going to lift up. And I got a red arrow. So what I want to do now is go to simulate. All right. And I can kind of see a tool path on here. I can see where the router is going to go based on where these blue lines are, where it's going to lift up. So I can hit the play button down here, and it will play and show me the cutting path that it's going to follow. This is kind of an interesting cutting path. And I'm also noticing it seems like it's doing quite a few passes here. So I'm going to go to info, and it tells me what the Z position is. It's down 0.39 inches, and it's going back and forth and back and forth. It doesn't seem like it's dropping down lower. Okay, so I'm going to exit my simulation. And I'm going to right click on pocket one and go to edit. And I wonder if when I set that roughing step down, it didn't like my fraction. All right, yeah, it changed it to some weird, strange number. So I'm going to change this to the decimal equivalent. Apparently, Fusion doesn't like fractions. I'm going to go 0.125, hit enter. Look how fast it computed that. All right. And now I can simulate this by hitting the play button, and it shows me the path it's going to follow to cut this out. All right, so if this is going a little slow for you, you can change the bar down here to speed things up, slow things down. If you're wondering what's this going to take in real life to cut it out, I can click on the stats tab and it tells me 8 minutes, 26 seconds. All right. Now I'm noticing as it's going around here, it's missing this section of the circle around the G. So I've got two options here. I either need to make the engraving a little bit bigger, that pocket a little bit wider there so it can go through, or I can tell it I'm going to use a different tool to cut that out. Right. changing tools is kind of a pain. So I'm going to exit this simulation. I'm going to go back to manufacture, and I'm going to switch to my design. And I'm going to go in and edit this sketch and see if we can make this just a little bit bigger. All right, zoom out here. I'm going to come to the modify command. I'm going to go to sketch scale and drag a box around the G logo. Okay, so I got the G logo selected, nothing else. Now I'm going to go to point. This is like putting a pin in it. Where do I want to pin it? And I'm going to try making this just a little bit bigger. All right, it's not really cooperating here when I drag it, so I'm going to come over and enter a scale factor. We'll try 1.1. All right, that looks good. I'm going to finish my sketch. It should automatically update that pocket, so I can go back to manufacture. I'm going to go to kind of a 3D view here. Now you'll notice I've got like a warning sign, so I'm going to right click on this and go to generate. It's going to update that toolpath. I see blue lines coming all the way through here, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. Let's go to simulate and see what it does. Oh, I think we got it. All right, now it's cutting all the way around there. It's making 2 passes. All right, that's because we've got multiple depth sets, so it's cutting down 1/8 of an inch and going a little bit deeper on that second pass. All right, you can see it's doing the same thing here, going with 2 shallow passes, so we're not working the router too hard. All right, and I'm going to pause it. This used to just stop at the end of its simulation. I noticed this arrow loop back to the beginning. Must be an update that Fusion made. If I come look here, it says it's going to take 10 minutes to cut that part out. And if I check my feed rate here, it's going at 50 inches per minute. All right, so I like what I've got. I think at this point, I'm going to save this. We'll come back to it in the next video, and we'll program the router to cut around the Wisconsin outline.